The bill is set down for first reading forthwith. I call the Honourable Minister, Jerry Brown.
Mr Speaker, good afternoon, sir. Point of order.
Point of order.
Mr Speaker, I seek leave for the Local Government and Environment Committee to hear evidence on the Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Bill, and for this purpose to have authority to meet today and while the House is sitting, and during an evening while the House is sitting, to meet in Christchurch during a sitting of the House, despite Standing Orders 2011, 1901 1A, B and C, and to report the evidence received to the House by 9 a.m. on Thursday the 14th of April 2011.
Is there any objection to that course of action being taken? There appears to be none.
Mr Speaker, I move that the Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Bill be now read a first time. Mr Speaker, just to explain the effect of the motion that's just been agreed to by the House. It is somewhat unusual. I'm grateful for members allowing this procedure to take place. Essentially, sir, the bill is read for a first time now, and then at the end of the reading, upon a successful vote, it will be laid upon the table of the House to be dealt with presently. Presently, in this sense, will mean at 9 a.m. on Thursday morning. In the meantime, a select committee will be able to hear from people who have been invited to submit to it their opinions on the bill, to gather evidence that relates to those opinions and to present that evidence to the House for its consideration during the second reading committee stage and third readings of the bill. Mr Speaker, the bill is necessary because effective earthquake recovery will require timely decisions that would not be possible under current legislation. The bill describes the activities that the Christchurch Earthquake Recovery Agency, SERA, will undertake and the powers that the Minister for Earthquake Recovery and or the Chief Executive of SERA will need to undertake these activities. The bill provides appropriate measures to enable governments to facilitate and direct, if necessary, Greater Christchurch and its communities to respond to and recover from the impacts of the two Canterbury earthquakes. The purpose of the bill is to provide appropriate measures to ensure that Greater Christchurch and its communities respond to and recover from the impacts of the earthquakes, to enable community participation in the planning, the recovery and the rebuilding of affected communities without impeding a focused, timely and expedited recovery, to facilitate and direct the planning, rebuilding and recovery of affected communities, including the repair and rebuilding of infrastructure and other property, and to restore the social, economic, cultural and environmental well-being of Greater Christchurch communities. The bill vests powers in the Minister for Canterbury Earthquake Recovery and the Chief Executive of the Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Authority. These are necessary to enable an effective, timely and coordinated recovery for Greater Christchurch following these events. In order to achieve the policy intent of effective and efficient rebuild and recovery in Christchurch, the legislation needs to ensure that the desired outcomes that SERA and the Minister identify in the recovery strategy and provide for the recovery plans are able to be efficiently and effectively delivered on the ground. The private sector and the wider community will be critical players in the successful recovery and rebuilding of Christchurch alongside central and local government agencies. Mr Speaker, it's worth noting at this point that there has been, in response to the initial emergency and as we've moved into recovery, literally tens of thousands of people in Canterbury who have gone the extra mile to make life a bit easier for their fellow Cantabrians. Mr Speaker, it's capturing that intention and that deep intensity of desire to recover that this bill sets out to achieve. To achieve its policy intent, the legislation must ensure that an appropriate balance is struck between providing certainty to residential communities and to business investors about how the legislation will work and what is needed for the recovery on the one hand, and providing flexibility for different and innovative solutions to specific circumstances on the other. The processes set out in the bill are efficient while providing appropriate safeguards. The recovery strategy and plans formulated under the bill are linked efficiently through the existing statutory planning framework in Greater Christchurch. This includes ensuring that non-recovery related activity in Christchurch does not inadvertently cut across the direction set out in the recovery strategy and plans. Only those powers considered necessary have been provided for, and they fall into a series of broad groupings. Mr. Speaker, first would be information gathering, report and investigations. These powers are necessary as critical decisions must be based on accurate information. Most notably here, gathering information for a large data set that will help inform decisions about the future viability of some streets and indeed some suburbs in Christchurch is absolutely essential. This information must be able to be shared to ensure appropriate levels of consultation and explanation for the decisions made. I'd hasten to add that much of the information that is provided will be available for analysis by an agency of government, but will not be generally available because of its commercial sensitivity. And aligned with the gathering of information is the need to commission reports and investigations to ensure that decisions are soundly based. One can only imagine what it would be like to find out that some people living across the road from you may have a section that is no longer viable and may need to move, but you in your circumstance, sir, find that you are deemed to be on a safe and stable piece of ground. Anyone in that situation is going to want to know that the very best of information has been gathered and the most appropriate analysis of that information has been made. Mr. Speaker, the next is the power of entry. This power is necessary to enable premises to be inspected to facilitate carrying out work to assist in the recovery efforts, such as informing land remediation decisions, and to keep and maintain structures on relevant land and to prevent damage to them. Surveys. These powers are needed to ensure the speedy and accurate reinstatement of title boundaries, an issue which underpins New Zealand's economy and is central to the equity that many homeowners have in their property. It provides certainty for property rights of affected landowners. These powers will ensure that property boundaries are determined in accordance with the best interests of the Canterbury region and in the manner that enhances the recovery effort for the region. On building works, in order to achieve the purposes of this Act, the Chief Executive of SERA must be able to carry out of commission building works, including demolition. This enables urgent action to be taken and prevents unreasonable delays that might stop unnecessary works. One of the worst things that could happen, sir, would be for large buildings that have big drop zones to be given months and months to sort themselves out, but in that process preventing many others getting into their premises, jobs being reactivated and the general commerce of the CBD being held up. These powers are complemented by additional associated powers that enable land to be subdivided to permit building works for temporary housing to be erected and to authorise their use and to stop or close roads. Mr. Speaker, the government has commissioned through SERA a number of temporary housing units which will go on public places in anticipation of people needing those as their houses are repaired. This particular section of the Act enables that. Directions. These powers are necessary to enable work to be coordinated to avoid duplication of effort and disruption. For example, the provision of power, water and other services should be done simultaneously so that roads are not continuously being dug up for such works. This includes the power to step in where directions are not followed. Mr. Speaker, for private property owners, these powers enable the Crown to purchase property where required, to enable the recovery to proceed and to enable compulsory acquisition where necessary. These powers, sir, I think will be exercised sparingly, but they will be particularly important for the recovery of suburbs as well as for the CBD. Mr. Speaker, the power to require information can only be used where information can be provided without unreasonable difficulty or expense. Before disseminating information, the Chief Executive must consider privacy principles. The person exercising a power of entry must produce authorisation and evidence of identification, and reasonable time notice must be given. Before exercising the survey power, the Chief Executive must consult the Surveyor General, and where there's a dispute mechanism needs to be put in place. In undertaking building works, a notice is required to be served on owners, occupiers or other persons with an interest in the land. Mr. Speaker, in exercising the directions and steps in exercising powers of direction, the steps and right does not include the ability to collect rates or to take action that may affect other rating decisions. Notices of the intention to acquire land is required. Persons who have had their land compulsorily acquired or demolished will be entitled to compensation, and any person may appeal to the High Court against the determination of compensation against any decision in respect of which there is a right of appeal and objection under the Resource Management Act or from a dispute over a survey definition. Mr. Speaker, there is one other significant control around the bill. The Minister must prepare and present to the House a quarterly report on the operation of this Act, and each report must include a description of the powers exercised on or behalf of the Minister or the Chief Executive under this Act during that period. Mr. Speaker, the bill is subject to the Official Information. The Act is subject to the Official Information Act, as is the Department. The decisions by the Minister are subject to judicial review. So overall, this bill enables the government to move swiftly to restore the social, economic well-being of the Greater Christchurch area and its affected communities. The checks and balances ensure that the necessary power for recovery are used judiciously and are open to appropriate levels of public scrutiny and provide for appeal. Mr. Speaker, I commend the bill to the House.
The question is that the motion be agreed to.